Hello, welcome everybody. My name is Dennis Brown, and this is my weekly Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. But today is a special episode because I'm interviewing a past student. But it's not just any student, right? It's not someone who bought the course and then kind of sat on it and didn't take action and let a lot of challenges stand in their way. This story today that I'm going to share with you and introduce you to this gentleman here in a couple minutes is really truly amazing. It's in my 27 plus years as an entrepreneur. It's one of the greatest success stories that I've personally encountered. Right. So we're going to share that with you. Again, kind of the title of today's training here, or this interview, is, from being paralyzed at 14 years old to doing over $20,000 a month in profit as a freight broker in the last 30 days. So if that doesn't get your attention, I don't know what will. There's not much that I can say to get you excited or to get you to listen. But I did want to introduce my friend Rico Brown, my long lost cousin. Not really, but who knows, probably somewhere along the line. Rico, I'm going to bring him up on stage here real quick. Let's see. Rico, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Dennis. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. I know it was no easy feat just sometimes to do these sorts of things,
Yes.
especially with all the things you're juggling with your business and everything. So can you do me a favor and just give us a quick background, like a minute or two, about kind of your story of, some of the challenges that I kind of referred to in the intro and how you got up to this point.
Okay. Well, of course, my name is Rico Brown. Ricky, but I prefer Rico. All my friends, so you guys call me Rico. Like Dennis said, I was actually paralyzed 37 years ago at the age of 14 while participating in a football game. But I never let it down. I've never cried about my disability, and I never will. So I'm an only child. I was raised by a single parent. I have an awesome stepdad, awesome stepmom. My mom and parents, my parents were separated when I was about 18, but I have the support of both of them, as well as my step parents. But nonetheless, as Dennis said, I was paralyzed when I was 14 years old. But despite the fact I chose to live, and that's the most important thing that was the most important decision I made. And in the process of making that decision, I knew that if I wanted to live and survive in this world, despite my disability, I knew that I could be a productive member of society. So despite being paralyzed, I went on, finished high school, and I went and I got my psychology degree from the University of South Carolina. Went on and got my master's degree in rehab counseling and worked towards my PhD in clinical psychology. So I have a lot of background in counseling and talking and communicating with people. So that, and I also love sales. That was really another thing. My minor is actually in business and in Spanish, so I have a pretty good background, education wise anyway. So
yeah, that's amazing. So what got you interested in freight brokering? How did you stumble across this?
I'll be honest. When I was young, my mom used to buy me Hess trucks, the little Hess 18 trucks, and I always loved those things. There were two things that I always loved, and I talked about it. It was football and trucks. And now when I actually was paralyzed playing football, but that didn't kill my love for trucks, and now I have a lot of friends that became 18-wheeler drivers and things of that nature, and we have common interests. And I wanted to figure out a way that I could actually get involved in the industry as well. So here lately, I actually retired as a counselor back when I was 38 years old. When you make a lot of money in this world, they don't consider you disabled anymore. So because my friends were in the trucking industry, I wanted to figure out a way that I can get involved with it as well. So I started actually doing some dispatching for a friend. And that got me interested. I wanted to figure out what more I could do. So I started Googling freight broker. And I started looking on YouTube, and I came across Dennis Brown. And I said, this seems interesting. So let me take this course. So I took the course, and lo and behold, I found my passion.
I
And
love it.
I was able to move trucks, and that was actually one of my passions. So, hey, I just jumped right into it. It was difficult in the beginning, I'll admit, but your class made it a lot easier. You and you and Yogi really made things a lot easier for me.
Yogi Goswami, he's everybody's favorite.
Hey, he's a good guy, and so are
A
you.
great guy.
But I'm the type of person, I believe that God puts you on this earth for a reason. And I just found my passion. I love to work with kids. And so I started a nonprofit. But this job here with the freight brokering, this is something that I never imagined that I would like it as much as I do.
It's funny because sorry to interrupt, but I remember right after you got your authority, you messaged me on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You messaged me on Facebook, and you hadn't even started making any calls yet. You just got your authority. You hadn't even started making any calls yet. And you messaged me, and we chatted for a minute. And then fast forward, several months, you kind of reached out to me. I think you reached out to me and we're like, yeah, I got my first customer, moved my first load. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh man, the first load was actually a blessing. It was because I actually said I got lucky, but you corrected me on that. It's not luck. I
That's
can't
right.
remember the exact words, but I was prepared. Because I have the nonprofit, I had a sponsor that actually builds housing developments, huge housing developments. And I just happened to get my freight broker license. He came to visit me one day, and he needed some materials moved. And I said, I can do it. And he said, how? I was like, easily, I can get a truck. I'm a freight broker now. And he said, well, I have a couple of loads that need to be picked up. Can you get it from here to there? So I said, sure. When you need it moved? And he said, I need it there tomorrow. I was like, well, I don't know if I can get it tomorrow, but maybe the day after. Let's get it. And that was just my first step. And he gave me my first opportunity. And I was prepared.
That's right. We were having that conversation before, and some people would call that luck, and even Rico referred it to luck. But my old wrestling coach in college had a saying, and I don't think he made it up, but he used to use it all the time. He used to say, luck is when opportunity meets preparation, right? Yes. The opportunity surfaced for Rico, but it was his preparation, not only, by getting trained, but all of the preparation that he had and skills he had developed throughout his life, his communication skills, his positive attitude, all the things, despite his disability, right? Despite of that, he was prepared. And that's part of what this training is all about. That's part of what Freight Broker Bootcamp is all about. I can't make the calls for you. I can't give you the customers. I can't do that for you, but I can help prepare you for what's going to happen. Okay? Because you're going to run into negativity. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. I just like to say, hey, never quit on a bad day. And that's the type of advice that you need to just keep going. So I really wanted to have Rico on because number one, I remember that conversation we had and I was pulling for him. Number two, he's a part of our Freight Broker Bootcamp paid members group. And he always tries to inspire everybody in the group. And he doesn't only try. People are truly inspired. Every time he posts, he gets tons and tons of comments, and people love his story. So I wanted to share it with the world here on this live. So let me ask you a few questions, okay? Because I want to try to ask a few questions. First, you mentioned how that first customer was kind of in the building niche. Have you kind of settled in on that being your niche? Is kind of like building supplies, that sort of stuff, or how does that look?
Anything flatbeds. I love flatbeds.
Gotcha.
Pretty much because he uses flatbed. So, and I've built a lot of relationship with flatbed carriers. And because of that, anything flatbed, that's my niche right now.
So, but predominantly, are you moving flatbeds out of South Carolina, or are you moving them anywhere in the country?
I've been moving them primarily out of South Carolina, going up north to maybe the Pennsylvania area, and towards to Florida. I do a lot of Florida, but a lot of it is really in-state as well. So,
see, what Rico's done is he did what I call a hybrid, very much like I did. He picked a piece of equipment. I picked vans. He picked flatbeds.
Yes.
I picked Northeast outbound. He picked South Carolina outbound, right?
Yes.
And so you see how that niche works, right? So he's developing that niche. Again, you've only had your authority for about a year and a half, right?
Pretty much about a year and a half.
Yeah, about a year and a half.
I actually went from moving maybe 2 or 3 loads a month. Well, maybe a month, and then I got a call and said, "Look, I need help. You know, this same customer, this one customer, I need help, and can you move 10 loads?" You know, and I was thinking, I'm pretty sure I can. Then next week he's like, "Can you move 15 loads?" You know, this was I actually because he gave me the first 2, and I guess he was just kind of testing me, you know. But he built my confidence. I never took more loads than I could handle. That was one thing, and over a period of time, I became more comfortable, and he gave me more loads.
And how many loads did you do in the last month or in the last 30 days?
Over the last 30 days, I've done about 120 loads.
With minimum profit of how much?
$200 at least.
So you guys do the math. You know, do the math in your head. 120 loads at a minimum of $200 profit.
At least $200 profit.
At least $200 profit. So that's over $20,000 in gross profit. You know, now you gotta understand, Rico doesn't have a bunch of employees. His expenses are very low. He's got some software, you know, he's got some basics, but that's a highly profitable business working from home. And, you know, I mean, it really is amazing. So that's how you developed your niche. Let me ask you a couple more questions. Here's a question for you. And this is one that I think is kind of telling and interesting whenever I ask it. And I forget to ask it too often. And that is, how do you, Rico, define success? Because it's different for everybody.
Me personally, with my disability, my success is just moving one load a day. That's success to me. My success comes with just being able to overcome the obstacle itself. Because me, I'm one that I love to try different things, and as long as I can do it, I became a freight broker. I consider myself a freight broker once I started moving at least 5 loads a week. That's
load a day. Load a day.
I could really do this. 5 loads a week, I could do this. You know what I mean? But things got serious and really picked up. And hey, I'm just running with the game. I'm just letting it guide me. As long as the loads coming in, I'm figuring out a way to move them. And that comes with, you know, building a good carrier network as well. So
yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that. So yeah, that's interesting. I love that. So let me ask you this. What do you think are the most important qualities or traits of someone who's going to be successful as a freight broker?
Oh man, you have to have passion. You definitely have to have passion about what you're doing. You have to be willing to fight reluctance, because you're definitely going to meet a lot of reluctance. You have to have the motivation. You have to be self-motivated. You have to be also a salesperson. Sometimes I told someone this the other day. When I made my first cold call, it took me, I think I picked up the phone and hung it up about 20 times because I was nervous. And y'all, it's hot down here, so forgive the sweating. I'm in South Carolina, so forgive the sweating. But it took me about an hour to just finally make that first call. But after I made that call, it was like a breath. I was ready. I actually used an alter ego. So I'm not Rico Brown when I'm making phone calls. I'm Superman. You know what I mean? I changed myself because you have to find that confidence somewhere. And some people are just shy. And I used to be shy by nature, but I kind of broken out of that shell because I become someone else when I'm on the phone. I even change my accents when I'm on the phone, just to make the person feel comfortable. If they're in Alabama, I have an Alabama accent. If they're in New York, I try to have a New York accent. So I just try to adjust and just do do what's necessary to get the sale. Pretty
Yeah,
much.
and the thing is, what you're doing is you are using those strategies as a way to build instant rapport, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
It's,
people like themselves.
yes.
Okay, you know, so ultimately, those little things that you're doing with, say for example, how fast you speak, or your accent, or the
Oh yeah.
phrases that you use.
Mm-hmm.
I love that idea. I love that thought process of putting on an alter ego to get
Yes.
yourself to make those calls. I love
Exactly.
that because it's all about your mindset. It's all about changing the framework that you've
Mm-hmm.
been living in where everybody fears rejection. You know what I mean? And so you overcoming that with that little hack. I love that. I think that's a great idea.
Dennis, I've been you a couple times on the call.
I love it.
I've been you. I've actually thought, what would Dennis say in this moment? You know what I mean? So sometimes you have to step out of yourself a little bit
That's right.
and do what makes you feel comfortable because sometimes being you don't get it all the time. So I don't know if you understand that, but sometimes you have to be the person you want to be instead of just being who you are. You know what I mean? Sometimes, and then if you be the person you want to be over a period of time, you notice yourself changing. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
you
You
can.
get the courage to make that next phone call, to keep on going, to keep on going. And that's what I did.
I love it. I love it. All right,
Mm-hmm.
listen. Next question. This is an important one, okay? Because I think this is
Okay.
one that people can really learn from and embrace, and that is what has been the biggest challenge from
Oh,
going from true startup, right? You
mm-hmm.
had no experience. You went out, got your freight broker authority. You took my training to now you did over 20,000 in profit in the last 30 days. What has been your single biggest challenge? And I know there's been a bunch, right? But if you had to pick one to highlight, which one really jumps out at you?
Establishing my credit rating. And I am still working on it today. One of my biggest regrets is that I didn't use a factoring company my first year. I used my own money. Fortunately, I was able to do that. It saved me money, but it hurt me in by not allowing me to establish a credit rating online. Even though I've done these sales, done these profits over this last month, I was actually turned down by a lot of carriers because of my credit rating.
Yep.
But I'm fortunate to be able to establish a good connection with the carriers within my state to be able to run these loads for me. I built a good credit rating on their scale anyway. So as long as I can keep these trucks moving, I'm good. But I
And
regret.
what's great is that before we hit live on this, you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned something about how when you get a load, it's already covered. Could you talk to the audience a little bit about that,
Oh
about
yes,
your carrier relationships and how you've built those relationships and the power of those relationships?
yes. Once I got my authority, I reached out, as I know that a lot of times I I I search for customers within 100-mile radius. Then I expand to 200 to 300. So what I knew I was going to be working the majority in my state. So basically, what I did was contact every flatbed carrier company within my state, and either through email or phone call, and let them know that I was a new broker. I don't have a credit rating yet. I was honest, but I pay up front, and my net pay was it's within 7 to 14 days. And as soon as I get a BOL, I send a check out. So I had no problem with anyone. Um, but I tell you, oh, hold on one second. I have to adjust myself a little bit.
That's all right.
Oh, I actually forgot the questions in here.
No, it's okay. I talked about developing the
Oh,
relationships with the
oh,
carriers
oh,
and the
oh,
power of that, and how you
yeah,
cover
yeah.
your freight now so
Okay, so
effectively.
basically, I got you. So basically, I established the relationship with these carriers, and I use the same carriers over and over and over again. So I have about 20 carriers that I've worked with consistently over the 2 years. So I barely, I think about, I stated about 85% of the time I don't have to post. So I really, because I have these carriers, a lot of times my loads are already covered before I know who I can call, and it actually saves a lot of money because I can negotiate a better rate with the individual that I know than I could when I post online. So that actually saves me money, makes me more money as well. So I love doing that.
Yeah, it saves you money. It saves you time. It makes things very predictable. It makes
Yeah.
things very sustainable. It makes
Mm-hmm.
things less stressful, right?
Yeah.
When you see the problem with a lot of brokers is they're what I call post and hope brokers. So,
Oh yeah.
you know, all they ever do is post to the load board and they're hoping that they can just find any carrier to cover that
Mm-hmm.
load. And I get it. Some niches are more difficult than others. Your niche based on geography allowed you to do that outreach, that targeted outreach to your carriers and develop that relationship. So that's something the audience should take from this. And that is the relationship with carriers is critically important. If you're putting a new
Oh
carrier on
yeah.
every single load, number one, you got to vet that carrier. You got to set that carrier
Mm-hmm.
up. They got to prove you with their factoring company, or
Exactly.
they got to do whatever. And the thing is if you use the same carriers over and over again, you're going to build a real relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That carrier is going to be now has a win-win beneficial relationship with you. And whenever they're empty, you're going to be their first call. They're going to
Oh,
call you.
exactly.
You're not going to have to call them every single time, right?
Yes. But I'm in the process. I have a group on Facebook
Yep.
where a lot of my carriers and a lot of my customers are actually in my group. So
I
I
love it.
post a lot of my loads in my group, and I get a lot of calls in my, from posting in my group.
Yeah.
So a lot of my loads are actually covered. Oh man, within Dennis, I'll be honest. Every load that I've had has been covered within 15 minutes or less.
Yeah. Just imagine that, guys. For those of you that have struggled to find carriers for a load, who have spent hours and hours and even days and days trying to cover a load, that's going to give you, that's what I want you to, one of the biggest things I would take away from this interview is I want you to understand your carrier relationships are equally, if not more important than your customer relationships. So as a broker, we have two primary stakeholders,
Yes.
right? Those stakeholders are customers, of course, because without freight, we can't do anything, right? But
Mm-hmm.
also carriers. And so you have to focus on the relationships with the carriers just as much, if not more, than the customers. Because the fact is, if you don't make that marriage and you can't predictably put that, freight on a truck and get it to pick up on time in good condition with no problem, you're going to struggle as a broker. And everybody struggles when they first start. And it takes most people a lot longer to learn that value that you instilled in your business and how you did that. So kudos to you for that. Let me ask you this, a couple more questions, and then we're going to probably do some live Q&A here at the end. But let me ask you, I guess one of the biggest questions is, if you knew what you knew now and you were back to startup day one,
Mm-hmm.
what, if anything, would you do differently?
I would definitely use a factoring company.
Okay.
That would be number one.
Yeah.
I would also train someone else besides me to do the job, because I have a disability and my health is not always up to par. So I think that if you're the only one doing your job, you need to be training someone to assist you in it, because there are going to be some times where you're not going to feel well, but you're going to have some loads that you're going to have to cover. You still have a responsibility to your customer.
That's right.
To cover those loads. So you need to train someone to be able to do your duties as soon as possible. I'm actually teaching my mom. So my mom, I was actually, and this is no lie, I was actually on the way to the emergency room. And I had a load that I had to fill, and I just talked my mom through it. And she did a great job. She made me $600.
I love it.
I gave her half of it. She got commission.
That's perfect. I love it.
So now she's actually interested in learning more of the business. So I would teach someone, how to do what you're doing.
I think that's a great lesson, which is creating some sort of redundancy.
Exactly.
Because, life is going to happen. Your health everybody gets sick and has health related issues at some point, whether it be week 1, year 5, and having that sort of plan in place just takes a lot of stress off too, because you know that if you're not feeling well, you've got somebody there that can support your customers and continue on with the business. It makes it much more sustainable. So I love that. All right, listen, one more question. All right. And we're going to wrap it up with this. Then we're going to jump into live Q&A.
Okay.
What advice would you leave the audience with? New brokers, predominantly what we have here is people that are considering becoming a broker or newer brokers. What's the biggest piece of advice you would give to the audience? And then we'll jump into some live Q&A.
Don't doubt yourself and don't be afraid to get started. The hardest thing is making that first call. Take a deep breath and dial the numbers and put up that alter ego if you have to. And just always, me personally, I never ever try to sell someone on the first call. I try to establish rapport. I think that's more important. If you get to know a person and befriend them, they'll be more likely to work with you. I said I only have one customer that I've made this money off of, but I actually have about 6 customers now. I just got a text from a new customer that was referred by the customer that I just did these 120 loads for.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
So I'm actually in the process of moving about 4 loads now, and this guy just texted me and asked if I could move 4 more. And this is like a last minute load, so I know I'm going to make some money on this. He needs this stuff moved by Wednesday, so it has to be there. So I love last minute loads. I just had to throw that in there.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Don't be afraid to take last minute loads. They pay more. That's one thing. All right. And just have faith in yourself. You have to have faith in yourself, and you have to believe in yourself, because if you don't, then your customer is not going to believe in you.
That's right.
And I think I actually posted something. Don't doubt yourself at all, because I think customers can smell doubt, and they definitely can hear it in your voice.
100%.
And don't just use cold calls. Get out of the office. Even I get out. I don't just sit here at home. I get out and roll about to any industrial park that I can find. So, and they love it when you come to see them. That shows dedication. So always figure out creative ways to find customers. Ask your friends. Talk to your friends. Don't just sit and make cold calls. You got to get out there and do the work. And just cold calling is just one part of it.
I love it, Rico. Listen, you're very inspiring. I truly appreciate you being here. For anybody who's listening right now, if you're curious about becoming a freight broker or a freight agent, and you want to work from home, whether you have disabilities or not, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. We've trained over 10,000 students, been in business over a decade, and we offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money back guarantee if for any reason you're not happy. Check that out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Truly appreciate you guys being here. Now we're going to jump into some Q&A, my friend. This is the best part. I love questions from the audience. I know people are going to have a gazillion questions for you. So why don't, if you guys have questions, hit me up in the comments. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Chances are we're not going to get to everybody's question. Okay. Number one, Rico's got a business to run. You already heard he's got some loads he's got to cover. Number two, I got some things to do. And number three, you got some things to do, because you need to start making some steps and taking some steps in your business. We can sit here all day and pontificate about what to happen, but you got to take action, right? Like Rico did. He didn't just sit on this and let it, kind of think about it, right? He took one step at a time. He told you this first set of phone calls, he hung up the phone 20 times. That phone must felt like it weighed 100 pounds, but he worked his way through it. He figured out how to channel his inner Superman character, and he got the phone, and then he made the call. And you guess what? I can almost guarantee you that first call didn't go the way he thought it was going to go. But then he made the second call, and then he made the 10th call. Then he made the 100th call. And the good thing is every single time he got better. And now look where he's at, 20,000 in profit in the last 30 days. And it's not about the amount of money, right? I mean, I know that we like to keep score, right? With revenue and profit and stuff like that. And sometimes I think that that's kind of a mistake. That's why I asked that question to Rico about how does he define success? he defined success by, if I heard him correctly, number one, taking on a challenge and overcoming it,
Exactly.
right? That's success,
Yes.
which is what he did. And then if you want to, from a minimal level, he said, listen, if I could move one load a day, I would consider myself to be a successful freight broker. Well, he obviously far surpassed that.
Yes.
So questions you guys have, let's jump into some questions. Let's see if we can help some other people here. Wow, lots of questions. Okay. All right. What factoring company do you recommend? All right. So I'll answer. There are a lot of factoring companies out there.
Yes.
The one that the community, Freight Broker Bootcamp, likes the most is Axle.
Pretty much.
Right? Axle Financial, Axle Factoring. Those are the ones that most people, now there are tons of them out there. Okay. But that's the one that the community likes the most. They work with startups. They seem to have really good rates. And do you have anything to add to that, Rico?
I do. I love Axle because of the wallet. One of the reasons being a startup, I didn't want to give my 3% up.
Right.
I didn't want to give up 3%. And Axle came up with a different way of factoring where they actually have the Axle wallet. As I said before, I was using my own money. And because I was using my own money, I didn't need a factoring company. But that created a problem with my credit rating, not being able to get a credit rating. So now Axle has what they call the wallet, where you can actually upload your money. They'll pay through the factoring company. And the good thing about it, the first 5 invoices are free. And they only charge you $3 and a maximum of $7. So instead of giving up $120 per load, now they only get $7. So I can
love it. Great. All right, cool. So let's see. What type of commodities do you usually move, Rico?
I move a lot of building material, steel, anything by flatbed, but the majority is building material.
Yep. All right. Let's see what the next question is.
And it's hot, so forgive the sweating.
Yeah, you're good, my friend. Don't worry. The knowledge bombs you're dropping far surpass the results of being in South Carolina heat. Trust me. And if I had a white shirt on right now or a gray shirt on right now, I'd be just as sweaty. So don't worry about it. Okay, so here's a question from Haiti Clark. Do you also offer training for freight agents? Yes. Freight Broker Bootcamp is an all-in-one training. So it's not just for freight brokers. It's not just for freight agents. And the reason why I did that was because when people have an idea to start this business, what happens is they're not sure if they want to become a freight broker or a freight agent because they really don't understand all the components yet. So rather than you taking a freight broker training and then realizing later that you want to be a freight agent and taking a separate training, we did it all in one. Okay. So you can use the training to do either or you can do a staged approach. A lot of people start out as a freight agent and then become a freight broker later, right? Yeah. Depending upon their credit, depending upon their goals or financial situation, whatever. So yeah, Freight Broker Bootcamp handles both, right? So you can do either with that training. Now, of course, you're going to, as a freight agent, you do not need your freight broker authority. You do not need a freight broker bond. You don't need those sorts of things. So it's a lot easier, but a lot of the things that are in there are still very, very relevant and important for agents. Okay. Let's see. All right. So here's a question for you. What's the best way to generate a profitable lead list? So when you were putting your list together to start making your calls, what advice can you share with this user?
Me personally, I use Google because I know I'm working with material. For example, I would Google what are the top lumber companies in Greenville County, and then I would come up with a list. Google would give me a list. Then I would expand to the next county within a 100-mile radius. Google would give me a list of lumber companies that I could actually call. Another good thing that I found is the Chamber of Commerce. You can go to their website and actually download an Excel sheet of manufacturing companies throughout the state of South Carolina. So that's another good source.
Yeah, I love that. The Google one works really well when you have a geography, right? Like he said, he was looking for lumber companies in South Carolina or in a specific county or a specific city or a specific geography. And what will happen is Google will pull up a whole list of those, and they can even put them on a map for you. So they give you a map view where you can see where they're at.
Yes.
You can get a link to their website. They'll sometimes have a phone number there, all that. So you can gather a lot of that information before you ever start making those calls. So yeah, Google's a very easy and free way to get started. And again, beyond that, if you want to go beyond that, there are other tools, right? You can use things like Zoom Info, right? Which has a lot of great data. Challenge is it's not cheap, right? So if you choose to invest or reinvest some of your profits because you want to save time and not have to do hours of Google searching, and you can have those same results in minutes, you can invest in a tool like a Zoom Info or other types of databases that will give you, a much more easy access and an enhanced view to whatever your niche is. Anything you want to add on that, Rico?
No, you're right. Me personally, a lot of word of mouth. The Chamber of Commerce really, really helped me. I actually got some really good leads. And you can actually type in the type of industry that you're looking for. Plastics, paper, whatever it is that you want to transport, they have it.
Got it.
In fact, they'll make. I really another thing I did was instead of just lumber, because I do want to, expand to just drive-ins and things of that nature. I just Googled top manufacturing companies in South Carolina, and I had a list of over 1,000 companies to call right there. So
love it.
And then a lot of things I tried to actually. It would be good to look for smaller companies as well. I tried to find a lot of small companies instead of the bigger companies because they're already situated. And a lot of smaller companies, they'll work with you.
Yep, absolutely. I agree. Perfect. All right. So here's a question for you from Aini Sarik. Sorry if I murdered your name. I apologize. How long did it take you to get your first customer, Rico?
It took me 3 months.
3 months.
3 months to get my first customer.
That's real.
It came a little sooner, but I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared. I was ready, but I wasn't prepared.
Gotcha.
They're two different. Being ready and being prepared are two different things.
Absolutely, they are.
A rush. I'm ready as soon as I get my authority, but I didn't know how to use the software. And this is a funny story because I actually called Yogi when I first got my first quote. Yogi actually helped me through it, and I didn't get the bid, but I learned a valuable lesson. Don't take a bid. Don't take something that you're not ready to do.
That's right.
I wasn't ready. I had no idea about moving the loads. I just jumped in and I wasn't prepared. So it took me about 3 months when I actually moved and completed my first load.
Love it. And for me, my first month in the business, I think we did like 12 loads. Mm-hmm. And it took me probably a week or two to move the first one. It took probably a couple of weeks. I don't remember exactly, but recollection was it probably took me the first couple of weeks to move the first load. Mm-hmm. And then the first month we moved 12 loads. And then the next month we were moving a load a day, and it kind of grew from there. Right. So, and that's exactly how Rico's did too. He moved his first load, got a couple loads, and then it kind of was slow for a while. Then it picked up and gradually went up to the point where he's had, I think, probably his biggest month ever, which was 120 some loads in the last 30 days.
And I just got was notified last week that another project is going to be starting. He's going to need 140 trucks. So I'm blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. No question. But again, luck is when opportunity meets preparation, right?
Exactly.
All right. So next question. All right. I lost track here. Hold on a second. Let me just, all right. All right. So here's a question. How do I find shippers? I'm now going on the second week with nonstop calling and can't get a load. Okay. So let me chime in first and then you can jump in on this one, Rico. So here's the thing. Number one, you just heard Rico say that it took him 3 months. And during that 3 months, he learned a lot, right? And his first phone call to the phone call that got him, that first customer,
Yes.
it was a learning process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he had to learn what to say, what not to say, how to
Exactly.
say it, right? There's a lot that went into that, how to rate it, build his confidence, create that Superman alter ego and everything that he does. It was a process. And for you, it's going to be a process. Some people it takes a week, some people it takes months, and so what you have to understand is you have to be patient. You just have to be patient. Here's some advice when talking to a shipper. One of the things that Rico mentioned earlier in the interview is he doesn't try to sell people on the first call. His focus is one thing: build rapport. Build rapport. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. That first call, if you can develop the know and the like on that first call, it's going to be very hard to build the trust on that first call. But if you can develop the know and the like on that first call where they like you, right, you're going to get another call.
And do your research. Know that product. I don't make a call without knowing what that company makes or the type of products that they're developing. So
yeah,
speak on that product. Hey, I see you guys made a lot of money last quarter. Doing such and such. And I'm not afraid to crack jokes either. I try to make people smile. I might open up a call with, "Hey, how you doing?"
right.
Whatever, if they're smiling and I know that I got a chance.
Absolutely. People want to do business with people. They don't want to do business with companies, right? So when you start talking about your company and you start vomiting all over them about how you're the greatest broker and you can help them move their freight, they've heard that 100 times. So that leads me to the next piece of advice, which is be different, right? Don't sound like everybody else. The problem is if you sound like everybody else, you're going to get treated like everybody else, which is you're going to get a lot of rejection, you're going to get a lot of no, and you're going to get a lot of hangups. So try to be a little bit different. What you heard Rico say is he's not afraid to crack jokes. He's not afraid to be a little quirky and funny, and that makes him stand out from the crowd. Plus, the other nugget that he just dropped that most of you probably didn't hear or have already forgot, which is he gathers sales intelligence before he gets on the phone. Statistically speaking, the most educated salespeople are the salespeople that are going to do the best. Now, I don't mean formal education. I don't mean all the college and all the great accolades that Rico has from his years of getting his degree and do those sorts of things. Those are valuable. But when it comes to this, I'm talking about intelligence about the industry you're targeting, the company you're targeting, and the prospect themselves. If you can gather that type of information, you can leverage that to build that instant rapport and to differentiate yourself. So those are a few things that I think can help. Don't stop making the calls. Focus on trying to improve, leverage sales intelligence, and try to sound a little bit different than everybody else. And I think you'll start seeing some success.
Yes.
All right. Next question. Dwayne, Dwayne is in my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator program, which is where, I do that 5-week sales training program. And he's asking, should he be a part of Bootcamp? It depends on where you're at. If you've already set up as a broker and as an agent and you've already started to move some loads and you're already got kind of your feet under you, you might not need that, right? Because the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator really focuses in on the sales and customer acquisition piece, which is what most people struggle with. So we can have a conversation about that Wednesday when we do our group live. All right. Okay, so here's a question. What kind of authority do you need to move loads from the US to Canada? Well, you either need a carrier authority if you're going to be the carrier, or you need a broker authority if you're going to be a broker. So if you're in the US and you want to move loads to Canada, you got to have a broker authority in the US. You do not need a broker authority in Canada to move loads in Canada from the US. But depending upon the province that you're in, Canada kind of has some quirky laws. If you want to move loads from Canada to Canada, then that may be more regulated, okay, where you may need some sort of credentials in Canada to do Canada to Canada. But US to Canada, Canada to US, if you have a broker authority, you should be good to go. Let's see. All right. I'm just scrolling through looking for some questions. Okay, so here's a question for you, Rico. You can take this one. Who's the main person to contact in a company to offer my broker services? Who do they call? What's the title? What's the job title?
Well, I usually ask for the transportation manager. If I'm calling anyone in logistics, and you have to be careful because you have to actually, when you're doing this, you have to get through the gatekeeper. There's always the gatekeeper. So a lot of times I ask for, transportation. They'll tell me if I don't have the name of the individual, then they're not going to let you through. Sometimes, I've done some things like I'll call and just ask for the warehouse, and instead of the transportation manager, then I ask someone else in the warehouse who's the transportation manager. They'll give me a name, and then I'll call back and say, "Hey, may I speak to John?" And
I
they'll
love
set
it.
me up. And I talk to John, and John will say, "Hey, send me an email." They just figure out different ways to get through it. But
yeah, it's funny. It's chess. It's not checkers, right? What Rico just described to you was he ran into an obstacle. Somebody wouldn't let him through. We call it the gatekeeper. So what he did was he figured out a way to round that obstacle so that he could gather some information, that he could go back to the gate, present that information, and get instant access.
Instant access.
Right? It took an extra phone call. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people just throw their hands up in there and like, oh, they won't let me in. Well, get a little bit creative. Okay. It's not that bad. It's not that hard.
And I truly believe this. I've been paralyzed now for 37 years. And I say, and this might be kind of funny, but what's the use of having a disability if you can't use it? You know what I mean? It's kind of like being in the back of the line and being able to go to the front because you have a disability. Well, when I make calls and I get to these gatekeepers, a lot of times I say, look, I've been paralyzed now for 37 years. And that gets their interest. And they want to know how. I was playing football. But, I'll tell you that story. But then I go to the little spiel. There are two things I like, football and trucks. Now, I like to know how I can move your trucks. Somebody gave you an opportunity. I'm sure you're successful. I would love to say that you were the individual that gave me my first opportunity.
Yeah, I love it. And what I love about that is you're using what's unique about you, but most people would use that as as a liability. You're using it as an asset, right? Yeah. So you've got a unique set of circumstances that your life has taken, right? We all know the story. But the fact is, you're not looking at it as a disability. You're looking at it and positioning it as an asset. And you're making yourself relatable, right? Yes. You're making yourself very relatable to people because they want to hear that story. They're like, this guy's a freight broker and he's and he's disabled and paralyzed. I mean, that's amazing. How did that happen? And that starts a conversation. Do you notice how it's the conversation, that you're having isn't just, hey, you got a load list you can send me, or hey, can I move your freight? You're building rapport with people. And that's what you can tell. Everybody on this live can tell that Rico, number one, is a very good communicator. Number two, he's funny. Number three, he's extremely likable, right? So that's what he does in his sales calls. I've never heard one of his sales calls, but I can tell you right now exactly what it would sound like just after having a 48-minute conversation with him here live. And I think you guys could too. He has that attitude. He has that, he has that confidence. And so that's what you need to pull from this. Okay. So I hope that helps. All right. Let's see a couple more questions. Okay. So next link asks, hey, Strong Rico, what's the average you make per month? So if we took let's say we took the last 6 months, okay, which has been a ramp up, right? We'll take the average of the last 6 months. Last month, we know it was over 20,000. The month before, if you just wanted to do some super quick math in your mind, the last 6 months, what is it kind of averaged? Because it wasn't all $20,000 months.
I went from, let's say, 2,000 a month, 2,000 a month, 3,000 a month, 3,000 a month, then wham, 20,000 a month.
That's right.
20,000. It was about building the confidence of of my customer. And then he ultimately got in the bind where he needed to use me. And then he realized I could do the job, and he started giving me more loads. So once you win the confidence of your customer, trust me, he's going to increase the amount of loads he gives you. And then he's also going to refer you to other people. So there you go.
But again, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. He was prepared. He took advantage of the opportunity. And then not only did he earn the trust, he actually earned it for months and months and months, making a couple $1,000s a month, that's nothing to sneeze at.
Nothing.
You know, a lot of people on this live would be extremely happy if they could make $2,000 or $3,000 a month profit. And you should be very grateful for that. But the fact is because you did the work and you proved it and you developed that know, like, and trust.
Exactly.
He had a trust level of X number of loads per month he was willing to give you. But after months and months and months, that trust level went up to here.
Yes.
And then he gave you 120 some loads. And now he's going to give you 140 some loads. And so that's going to snowball. And the key is what he said earlier was he never takes more than he can handle, right? He under promises and over delivers, right? He's, I can tell you right now, Rico's not the guy who's going to just say, hey, give it all to me. He could have more freight right now if he wanted it. But the fact is, he's got a disability. He has some things that he has some limitations. And, and his health is obviously the number one priority, and he doesn't want that to degrade. So now, you even heard earlier how he's trying to train some people to help take some of the workload and help support obviously the customers in the event that he does have some sort of health issues. Because trust me, that event that made him disabled isn't a one-time event, right? It carries a lifelong set of challenges that, that most people don't have the slightest clue about. Okay.
Yeah.
So
this way forever, and I might as well take advantage of it.
That's right.
Talk about it, just make it work.
All right, next question. Rajinder Kaur says, excuse me, did you have any fear of making mistakes? It's a lot of money involved. The fear is holding me down.
Yes, of course. I'm dealing with other people's money. I mean, if I don't deliver, then they don't make money, and I don't get paid. So of course, I'm blessed to be able to say that I have a 100% success rate, but it's only because I only do what I know I can do. I don't know any more than I can handle, and you have to stop doubting yourself. One thing. And you have to jump out and take a leap of faith, because if you don't start, you're never going to know what you can do.
And you mentioned two words earlier. You said ready and prepared. Yeah. You were ready, but you weren't prepared. So you got prepared.
I got prepared.
When you developed the carrier relationships, you understood the rating, you understood the dynamics of moving flatbeds in and out of, South Carolina. So that was your preparation stage. And then at that point, the more prepared you are, right? The more confident you're going to be, right? I talk about it all the time. Confidence comes from competence, right? So the more competent you are, the confidence not only in yourself, but the confidence of the carriers and the customers and everybody involved. So so again, but at the end of the day, there's going to come a point where you're going to have to take a calculated risk.
Yes.
A calculated risk. And you know what? Here's the reality. It might not work out. It could go bad. But the more prepared you are, right? The more work you've done up front, learning the dynamics of how to move your niche, those relationships you've developed, the higher chance of success and the lower chance of failure. But you will ultimately have to take a leap of faith, and you'll have to jump.
Yes.
And you jump the first time, you move that load, it's going to build a little confidence. And then the next load builds a little bit of confidence. And the next thing you know, now you're moving a load a day, and you're off to the races. So that's the best piece of advice I think I can give you. And I think Rico obviously already, has made that very clear.
Like I said before, freight brokering is not for the faint of heart. It's not for the faint of heart. You have to be able to take that reluctance, and you cannot. You didn't start to just stop. You know what I mean? You got into this business for a reason.
Yep.
Just remember why you got into it and know that there's a lot of opportunity out there for you to make money.
Love it. All right. See, we're going to do maybe a couple more questions and then we're going to wrap it up for today. Do you have any problems with focusing on moving? So here's a question from John. Do you have any problems with focusing on moving government lanes only? Okay, so Rico doesn't focus on government freight right now, okay? There are some requirements. Number one, in most government entities, whether that be the SDDC or GSA or FEMA or any of those government organizations, most cases you have to have your authority for at least 3 years. Okay, so they're going to look for a 3-year history of your authority. So if you're a brand new broker, government freight is probably not going to be your niche starting out. But what you could do is you could develop the niche that you're going to pursue within the government, because the government has niches inside. They have heavy equipment. You know, they move flatbeds, they move vans, they move reefers, they move power only, they move everything that's available on the truck stop DAT board, load board, or the DAT board is available. The government is the largest shipper in the world, right? They ship more than anybody, but there's a process there. So there's some learning there, but in preparation for that, again, there goes the word ready versus prepared, right? I know you're ready to get a government contract, but I know you're not prepared yet. So you can get prepared by developing your carrier relationships, your rating, and the skills in and around your niche. And then after you can meet those requirements, you can jump in, feet first if you want to get into some government freight. Listen, I know that I don't know if Rico's thought about it, but I know that Rico's in a great position to do that. Number one, he's got a great carrier database. He's got great knowledge. He's disabled, right? Mm-hmm. So he has a situation where he can use that to his benefit to probably help him move through that bureaucratic process associated with becoming a provider. And so, hey, I wouldn't doubt if in a couple of years we have a conversation with Rico about him doing government freight.
Right now, I'm pretty much sticking to what I know best. I'm only 2 years into it. And once I get more experience, because I don't know everything, I'm still fresh in the game. But I'm blessed. I'm not going to use the word luck because I prepared myself.
That's right.
And, I was ready, and I think that everyone that's listening to me right now can do the same thing. You guys just don't give up, and I'm gonna keep on posting in the room, and I'm gonna keep on trying to motivate everyone because it only takes a leap of faith and believing in yourself that you can do this stuff.
Here's the thing, and we didn't talk about this, but Rico and I talked about this pre-interview, and that was one of the greatest parts about this business of being a freight broker or freight agent is you don't need hundreds of customers.
Oh no.
Okay. If you open a Tim Hortons, or you open a pizza shop, or you open an insurance agency, or you open a real estate company, or you open any of those businesses, you need hundreds, if not thousands of customers in order to make that business work. Here's the cool part about freight brokering. You get one good shipper. Just one, you're off to the races. Now there's some risk there. So you don't want to rely on just one, but literally if you have a small handful of customers, you can consistently make 6 figures and have a real business. We're talking a small handful of customers. We're not talking about hundreds. So that barrier to entry, the sales that you're concerned with and the rejection that you're concerned with, it's not like you're going to have to make 100 cold calls for the next 20 years. That's not what this business is about. Yes, you got to front load it. And yes, you're going to have to make a bunch of calls up front. And yes, you're going to get a bunch of rejection up front. Nothing I can do about that. You can either accept it or you can fight it. And if you fight it, you're going to fail. Okay. But do the work, learn as you go along, and you're going to pick up your first customer, which is going to lead to your second customer, which is going to lead to your 5th customer, which is going to lead to your 10th customer. Next thing you know, you got more customers than you can even support, and you can't even make phone calls, which is a high quality problem, right? There's days when Rico couldn't make a phone call if he had to, other than covering his freight, because his shippers are busy. He already heard, he said he's got about a half a dozen shippers.
Yes.
Some are busier than others. Some are more project driven. Some have a little bit different, cadence of how they move their freight and how they leverage them. But at the end of the day, you don't need hundreds or thousands of customers because of the lifetime value and the reoccurring nature of this business. A small handful of customers can literally, the first customer, that's going to pay your mortgage. The second customer is going to pay your car payment. Third customer is going to pay off all your credit card debt. The fourth customer is going to pay for your kids' college education. The fifth customer, is going to fill up your retirement every year. That's how you should think about this, right? Yeah. That's how you need to think about this. You don't need to have hundreds. You just need to get those first few, and it's not nearly as hard as you think once you engage. Okay. So listen, I think we're going to leave it at that. I think that's a great way to wrap it up. Rico, do you have any parting advice or anything you want to share with the audience before we wrap it up for today? I know you got some things to do, and I'm sure the audience does too, but share any parting piece of wisdom that you want, and then we'll wrap it up for today.
Hang in there. Don't give up. Persevere. Have faith. And remember, I'm a Christian man, so I'm gonna say it like this. The Bible says, faith without works is dead. All right. But the Bible also says it is all works that make all faith perfect. So you have to put forth the work. You can have all the faith in the world, but you have to put forth the work to make it happen. So if you believe and want to be a freight broker, you already won. You just have to put forth the work to accomplish and execute your goals.
Love it.
And if I can do it, you can do it too.
Yeah. Do the work, people.
Do the work.
Tune in Rico in the Freight Broker Bootcamp paid members only group. If you guys are curious about becoming a freight broker and you need some help, some guidance to get you through those early stages, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Again, 60-day, 100% unconditional money back guarantee. If you're not happy, just message us. We'll send you all your money back, no problems. And again, we've trained over 10,000 students. You get access to a private members only Facebook group with guys like Rico and Yogi Goswami and Monica Gonzalez and Eloy Lozano and a lot of the success stories of people that have come out that are part of that community, and they rally around and help and assist. You heard earlier how Yogi Goswami actually helped Rico. He helped. There was a challenge that Rico was having with some rating and some things that he was doing with that first customer opportunity, and he guided him through that. So it becomes a great community to be a part of, not only for the startup phase, but for every phase of your business, because there are people in that group that are doing $1 million a month. Yogi does last month, just so you guys know, I want to blow your mind. Last month, Yogi did over $1 million in 1 month.
I want to be like Yogi.
And by the way, he lives in India.
Exactly.
And he's never been to the United States. So based on Rico's story, based on Yogi's story, and based on your story, take action. And I don't think you'll be disappointed. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Most of all, thank you, Rico. Congratulations. I'm inspired, and that takes a lot. Trust me when I tell you. I've heard a lot of great stories, but I'm inspired. Truly appreciate you being here. I promise that Freightpreneur t-shirt is going to be going out to you this week. Thank you so much for helping. Have an awesome week, everybody. And we will see you next week on the next Freight Broker Bootcamp Live.
Remember, don't give up, everybody. You can do it. Just hang in there. Be patient, and that first customer is coming. It's right around the corner. And God bless you all.